So today I'm talking about the one nutrition rule to rule them all. If you had to simplify nutrition to clarify confusion, get rid of anxiety in your stomach if you're making the right decisions, and most of all, stop reading all that crap on the labels. If you had to boil it down to one simple rule, it would be eat foods that existed 1,000 years ago. Eat foods that existed 1,000 years ago. Okay? Now, there's a reason I'm bringing up this topic. I just talked about it with someone this morning, and we had a new client recently signed on, and she's at a point where she can feel her hunger and she is ready to change her eating habits. And so we went high level at first with this expectation of imperfection. So high level, we created her meal structure, and then the attitude of imperfection. We didn't expect that she would stick to it perfectly, and she did not. And by trying and then learning to embrace temporary failure as a learning experience, she comes back and she says, "You know what? I tried. You know what? I really tried to eat this way, but I just didn't have time." And this woman, she's taking care of two families. She's running around working 13 hours a day, 7 days a week. So right there we do have some issues, some non-food related issues that are going to really hinder her progress. Her ability to care for herself is going to be diminished. And so we need to take that into consideration and work with where she's at. And where she was at right now is starved of time. And so she said, "Listen, those nutritional principles that you reviewed with me, they're good, but I need something on the fly. I need something quick that I can just look through my pantry with and come up with an idea." And that's where this 1,000 rule came from. It's something that I've come up with because so many people, they just want clarity on nutrition. And using the 1,000 rule, if we look at some common ingredients in your house, on my right side I have olive oil, and on the left side I have popcorn. So was olive oil around 1,000 years ago? Well, yes. The Romans, they famously cooked bread with olive oil. But was popcorn? No, it was not. Not this microwaved stuff, right? On the other hand, lentils, were these around 1,000 years ago? Yes. Okay? So this rule is great. I'll go into several benefits in just a moment, but first I do need to clarify, this rule is not perfect. Oftentimes, we're given these food rules, and you're led to believe that they are set in stone, and that if you don't obey these food commandments, that you're screwing up somehow, that you're gonna hurt yourself, that it's a sign that you're not committed. No, get that crap out of your head. This rule is a guideline. It's just literally a rule of thumb. This is something that you can use to parse through your fridge and just be like, was this around 1,000 years ago? Eggs, yes. And we did this. Actually, the woman, she opened up her fridge and she showed me all these crackers. Were crackers around 1,000 years ago? No. All the seasoning that's modern. It's packaged, it's in a plastic bag. Anything in a plastic bag was probably not around 1,000 years ago. Eggs were, yogurt was, veggies were, beans, meat. Notice that these are single ingredients. They're not pre-packaged meals. They're not coming in plastic bags. Yeah, you might get meat in a plastic bag, but you know what I mean. It's not in a cereal bag, you know what I mean? It's not some sort of sugary cereal in a plastic bag. And what this woman discovered by the end was that she had a lot of foods that were not 1,000 years old. They were modern, prepackaged, filled with processed carbs and stuff. And then she also had a lot of unprocessed foods that were 1,000 years old, and that she could open up her fridge and call it a day. Now, back to the downsides of the rule. It is too simple. It is too simple. Don't get me wrong. Like, for example, right here, I have peanut butter. And it's just plain peanut butter. But you could argue, well, back then they didn't have machines to crush the peanuts to that degree of smoothness. This is the smooth peanut butter. And so, was that around 1,000 years ago? Technically, no. But peanuts were around. And this is made of just peanut butter, just peanuts. So yeah, there's gonna be technical rules like, oh, it's not 1,000 years old, or it's just a rule of thumb. It's just a rule of thumb. And the other thing is don't be perfectionistic about it. Whenever you have a rule, the downfall is that the rule becomes something you must follow, or else you're out, or else you're not worthy of love. Seriously. These food rules, whatever your food rules are, you just be careful around them. For example, this might become a rule where you can't even have mustard. Mustard, right? They didn't have this mustard back then. Not with all these spices. You know, they didn't have the ability to take spices from Chile and Peru and mix them with the seeds grown elsewhere. So the mustard wasn't around 1,000 years ago. So should you just not have mustard? No, I'm not saying that. Make 80% of your diet foods that came from 1,000 years ago. And don't get caught on the 80%. Now, with that being said, this rule is great. This guideline is great. It's because this rule just takes care of so many things. If you eat unprocessed foods, anything that existed 1,000 years ago is not processed, right? If you just eat unprocessed foods that existed 1,000 years ago, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna get food satisfaction. Your gut is gonna be satisfied. If you're overweight, your body will slowly return back to normal. If you're binge eating a lot, you'll be able to decrease that. You'll start to trust yourself around food again. This is really simple advice that clears up so many problems. And it's so simple. They're so simple. I'm not telling you serving size. I'm not telling you, I'm not telling you how much. The beauty is that when you fill up on natural foods, your body, give it 6 weeks, but your body is going to regulate itself. Your body is going to tell you, no, you don't need any more food. But when you're eating empty carbs like this, your body can't really, it's like, your body just isn't good with that stuff. Food companies, they have an incentive for you to eat their food. So if you can eat more food without noticing that you're full, that would make sense, right? You got to buy more popcorn before you get full. So that's an incentive. So, all this salt and stuff that they add, it makes you dehydrated, makes you think you're hungry even more. There's all sorts of tricks that go into processed foods. But when you go unprocessed, it just takes care of itself. So imagine no calorie counting, just eating foods that existed 1,000 years ago. And your diet is still have variety in each meal. Don't get me wrong. We want breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe a snack, variety in each meal. You can do it. So let me know what you think about this rule. 1,000 years. Hell, maybe it should even be 10,000 years. What do you think? Let me know.